Greetings, everyone. I am Lee Carroll.
And I'm Monika Muranyi. And we want to just wish everyone Happy New Year
together. Yes, this is our first program of 2021.
Sheesh.
Wow.
What a year 2020 was.
I don't want to think about it this year. We are still talking about COVID, believe it or not, but I believe there is an end in sight. I really have this truth that we're going to wind down here and see. There's going to be issues, of course, but I think that the lockdowns and all those things, we're going to come to a close. At least that's my truth.
Yeah, and you know, Kryon coined a phrase way back in 2019. And the phrase for the year coming up of 2020 was, Kryon said it was going to be the year of change. And it certainly was. And the fact that we are sitting here wishing you a very warm, happy New Year in this environment of a recording studio is because of COVID. Is because of the lockdown.
That's right.
And so, yes, 2020 has definitely been a difficult year. However, things are changing into what Kryon also now calls the new normal.
And this was something I think Kryon talked about for actually some years.
Yes.
Speaking about this very thing, and that we are going to be seeing something we didn't expect, and here it is.
Yes, it is.
So this is called Healing Wednesday and the Circle of 12.
Yes.
So let me just tell you that this is our once a month free program. So we appreciate all of those who are watching on YouTube. And then, of course, our subscribers to the Healing Wednesday, the members who receive a program much like this almost every single Wednesday of the month and of the year. So we're doing this all year long, at least, and maybe even more. It's become very, I would say, very well received. We bring healers every single week to you that you maybe have not seen before. And we've got a really great one today, a real fine pioneer. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So thank you also for first-timers who are just coming for the first time to watch. Let me speak about something I always speak about, and that is the difficulty often of live stream. We are live streaming to you, both in YouTube, also to all of our subscribers, and sometimes the internet changes. In my house, it changes from day to day. No matter what I pay for my service, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, often depending upon how many people are using it. What I'm getting at is, if this is a frustrating experience for you because it starts and stops or the audio comes and goes, that's not the design. We have powerful messages channeling the Circle of 12 and a wonderful teacher today. Don't let this frustrate you. If you are not receiving it perfectly, or at least not to your satisfaction, turn it off, because you get a replay. Now, those of you on YouTube, there's a building library of replays every single first Wednesday. You can watch any of those and this one. And a replay is like watching a video. It's not near as taxing to your computer or the internet. For those of you who are subscribers, you get a replay within an hour and a half. And not only is this replayed, but if you've noticed in your portal, you also have every single program we've ever done. You can watch it as many times as you want to. So that's what I wanted to say about the internet, just so that you understand where we are, what we're doing.
Yeah.
The format for the show is we say hello, I talk to you about the internet, and then we talk about either profound things or funny things that we have done or had happen to us. We have also then a Kryon channel, we have our healer, we have a break, and then we come back, of course, with the Circle of 12. There's going to be a little different in what we do. Yes. Do you want to tell them a little bit?
It is exciting because we love to hear about everyone's experiences. And what Lee and I discussed is that we would like to start answering the questions that our members have for Kryon. And so we're going to change up not just talking about our experiences, but actually talking to you about what you have to ask Kryon. So that's coming in the future.
And it's not actually asking Kryon, it's asking about what Kryon has said. Monika in particular has a very good memory about what Kryon has said about certain kinds of things in case I don't pick it up.
Yeah.
But I'll be answering the questions, of course, along with Monika's help, and they will be definitely questions that you could also put to Kryon, but that I'll be answering. So that's kind of a new thing, and don't ask me when we're going to start it, but it's going to be very soon.
It is. But today what we want to talk about is something profound that happened on the planet. And it was in 2010. This was the rescue of the 33 miners in Chile. And the reason we want to talk about it is because we were personally affected and involved. We were actually in Chile at the time of the rescue, and we were mesmerized and glued to watching the events unfold as the miners were being rescued out from here. And so because of this amazing event, we actually decided to go and visit the site of the 33 miners in both 2012 and 2013. And so I know Lee has so much to share, and I want to hand it over to Lee because I love hearing you talk about this and sharing it with us.
To this day, it's very exciting to me. It's probably one of the most special things that I can remember that's ever happened. First of all, let's go back to 2010. We were in Chile. When I would think the last miner came out of the ground, there was elation in the streets. People were crying. They were hugging each other. It's almost like they, at the end of a war. This is how it felt. I asked my friend Jorge, I said, who lives in Chile, I said to him, who was with us, I said, have you ever seen anything like this before? And he said, only once. He said, when we won the World Cup. So sports, you've seen it. But this was amazing, and it was special. It was more than just special, because when we started looking at some of the numbers, this is what made us want to go back and visit this area. We are into, to a certain extent, the meaning of numbers. Just like Pythagoras was in numerology, numbers mean something. One of the numbers that is perhaps one of the, I would say, most meaningful is a double-digit number, and it is 33. If you look at the numerology, and that is especially the Tibetan numerology, it means the compassion of Christ. Doesn't get much more compassionate than that. So what really tweaked our interest, even at that time, we started to add up the 33s that were happening. Do you want to tell them just a couple of those?
There were many 33s throughout this whole event. Obviously, the first one is there's 33 miners that are underground. Then they actually had 3 different drilling teams with 3 different plans to rescue the miners. Now, we had the most amazing miracle take place when they were drilling, and can you imagine when they pull out the drill bit to find that there had been a note taped around the end of the drill bit?
When they finally broached the chamber.
Yes.
Which there are some odds at how deep it was and the chances
Incredible
of actually getting it
odds.
in there, which like you go, whoa.
Yes, and so the note said that we're all fine in the refuge, all 33 of us. And when you add up the characters and the spaces in that note, it comes up to a 33. The actual numerology of the date that the note was discovered, when you add that up, it's a 33. And the actual week that took place is the 33rd week of the year. And so all through this event, there were so many markers of 33 being the number, and it represents compassion. And this is why we're so excited, because it's the first global event. I mean, more people watched the rescue of the 33 miners than what they did when there was the landing on the moon.
That's correct.
It was a global event, and yet
Truly.
it was one celebrating joy, rescue, compassion, and all the other events where we've kind of had a synchronization have been tragic events like 9/11 and the death of Princess Diana. Yet here we have the most joyous, compassionate event ever, synchronizing the entire globe. So that's why we're so passionate about it. And continue the story, Lee.
When we went on our Kundalini experience, and I
Yes.
forget what was the first one.
First one in
We've done
2012.
3, I believe.
Yep.
And what I wanted to do is go back to that place. Now, it's in the Atacama Desert. It's not a place that you necessarily want to go to, or it's easy to get to. You have to fly to it specifically on their airport, and then drive for some distance until you come to a place that's desert. And there's nothing remarkable about it. And I wanted to see where they had come out of the ground. We got permission to go. There was the mine had not reopened. There were still problems. I'm not even sure it has yet today, because of course it's unsafe. But it's still there. And so we got permission to go, and the caretaker was going to open the gate, and so he did. Our buses went in. And we met actually at the place where they came out of the ground. And we had a little bit of time, a meditation, and I'm going to show you a picture of that. This is, again, in 2012. Now, take a closer look, because you see the cement slabs that are there. That's covering the hole where they came out. You can barely see it, but there's a tiny leaning Chilean flag, and not much more. That's it. We saw it, and we took a look at they had erected a little monument where they had the actual saying, that the actual note that came out of the ground. And basically, we left. But before we left, I mentioned to one of the people who was there, who was, I would say, a caretaker or perhaps more, I didn't know, and I did something really dumb. I'm speaking as an American, and I mean by this, we think of things differently, and then I was a little embarrassed later because I was probably out of place, but I said, you're sitting on something that is so important for Chile. I said, you realize that all the eyes were on you in 2010, and I've come here, and there's barely a flag. There's nothing. And I said, as an American, I said, you ought to have some of the miners here to greet people. You ought to have a gift shop. You can just hear me now. I've been to Disneyland way too many times. And I, after it was over, I went, wow, I shouldn't have said those things. So enter 2013. I wanted to come back. Actually, I'm not really sure I wanted to come back. I think it was our host who said, we're going back.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, that's nice, because the new people with us can experience what we experienced last year. Stand by. That's not what happened at all. I want to show you a picture of that place where we stood that I just showed you. It's changed, hasn't it? Look at that. They've erected a big 3, which, by the way, is the number of the drilling sequence. There's the 3rd people to drill. That's where they came out of the ground. There's a huge picture showing what they did. There's a big Chilean flag. And we go, what's up? Not only that, this is something I'd have to do a comparison. You see there's 33 flags. And we were aghast. They had taken my suggestion. Now, maybe not maybe somebody else came along. And a makeshift bookshop. It was a gift shop. Yeah, where we all, you see that yellow miner's hat?
Yes.
We actually were presented with that. But that wasn't the big one. They had heard about us somehow, or perhaps we were responsible for making them think about it or something. But we got the honoring of my life, I would say.
Absolutely.
4 of the original miners were there to greet our group.
And we were the first group for the miners to actually welcome onto that site. I don't know how we managed that, but every single person in that group will be able to tell you of that particular day when we met the miners. And in that photo that Lee has that we show, the miners were given numbers, and even the numerology of the numbers of the miners that we met on that day was amazing. We met number 9. 9 is completion. We met number 18. 1 and 8 is a 9, again, completion. And then we had 2 of the other gentlemen there, 11 and 33. Isn't that extraordinary?
It is. You could not have written this in a novel to make it more perfect or more profound.
Absolutely.
Using those numbers, and to think that they came there to meet us. So I was, at some level, I was part of a world event, and so were all of those who were with us. And we had a lot of those who were with us, and I'm not really sure they really grasped the profundity of what truly had taken place at that moment.
Absolutely.
So,
and just to hear the personal stories of what these men experienced underground was so touching to us, that they were willingly sharing up and inviting questions from everyone that was there as part of that group experience.
There was a movie called 33 starring Antonio Banderas, and there was maybe 1 or 2 things that were correct, but almost everything else was Hollywood. And the miners pretty much told us that after the fact. There were some profound things that went on down there. When a bunch of men are ready to meet their maker, and they all know it, the chances of being saved, interesting things happen. Different levels of maturity, different levels of spirituality, most of the men being Catholic, and they were truly, they were seeing angels and lights, and I guess I can say that without giving away anything because I'm not giving any names and all, but
Absolutely.
we got to hear some wonderful stories.
Yeah. And so we've run out of time, even though we could probably share even more about this amazing experience. But it's time now for a brief meditation and a channel from Kryon. And so we ask you to take a moment and just allow yourself to come into a quiet space. Relax all the tension out of your body. Relax your face, relax your shoulders, relax your arms and hands, relax your legs, relax your knees, your calves, your feet. And just feel the connection with the energy of the earth beneath you. And allow yourself to feel a warm embrace from all those who are sharing this experience with you. And we'll send out a wave of loving hugs to everyone that is gathered. And stand by for the first channeled message from Kryon for the Healing Wednesday of 2021.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. I have said this before. There are so many who would ask, do those from the other side of the veil whom I represent, are they truly aware of what humanity is going through? And the answer is more than you know. And the reason is this, because you have separated us so completely, made us something that is on high and you are on low. You have put a barrier, a wall, often between the creative source and yourself. You can see the barrier very clearly when you look at the protocols and the doctrines of the many spirituality groups and doctrines and religions on the planet. There is so much worship and bowing down to that which you see as so sacred, but you don't include it as being anything that you are as well. Dear ones, we have said it before, you are a piece of the Creator. And this is the truth. Perhaps it is the largest truth that we have ever spoken. And we have spoken it for 30 years. There's no separation. We are so aware of what you're going through because we are going through it with you. Indeed, you are never alone. Indeed, you are dearly loved. Indeed, there is something between us that is more than just a relationship. Inside you, at the cellular level, you might even say at the most smallest important pieces of you, even the DNA and smaller, are multidimensional pieces of the Creator itself, made in His image. You've heard that. The image is love. All of you are the image of love. I would like to talk today about one of four things. It's a series for this month. And I'm going to call it The Four Faces of Fear. Now, right away, there will be those who are listening to this broadcast and saying, well, wait a minute, I'm not a subscriber, and that's going to exclude me from the other messages, and that is not so. Listen up. I told my partner years ago that every single channeling I do should be free, and that there should be a method to make them free for the world. As many channels as possible, as many channels that are recorded, should be given away, and they are. There is a place on my partner's website where you can go and hear everything that we have ever channeled. There is one channel per Healing Wednesday, and they will indeed go to this place. Eventually, you'll see them all. So do not feel excluded as I present number 1 of 4, because you can hear all 4 if you choose. The subject, the 4 faces of fear. I say faces because that's what you look at. I didn't say attributes because that gives it perhaps a little more emphasis. It's a face. What do you know about a face? Everything is a metaphor. Dear ones, do I have to tell you that again? Even in the channeling, even in the messages, even in the language you hear it, there are metaphors. I'll say many things that sound odd until you understand the metaphor. What do you know about a face? First of all, you recognize a face and you can see where a face is friendly or not. But every single face is changeable. You can smile, you can frown. The 4 faces of fear. Now, why would I talk about fear when we have the healing modalities that we present here, where the entire subject of the day is healing? Why would I talk about fear? It seems to be an opposite to healing. So I will tell you again, for all of these years, we have been saying these things, and now it comes to a head, a point, a focus. Here is the statement. You should hear it yet again. The opposite of healing is fear. If you are fearful, dear ones, nothing that is presented in any of these programs truly can get around that. That's the face that you have chosen for yourself. That particular face, dear ones, is a face that will interrupt almost anything that we can give you. We can't get past fear. You can't get past fear. It stops it all. Kryon, are you really saying that there's a barrier that even with good health and with good nutrition and all those things? Yes. That's what I'm telling you. Because true healing is done with a consciousness and not objects and not simply remedies. It has to do with your consciousness agreeing with what you're doing in order to send your body messages of hope and joy, compassion and healing. And if you're afraid, it all simply stops at that wall called fear. 4 faces. I want to talk about the first one. It's the 3D one. It's the duality one. It's the most basic one. And there will be those of you who say it can't change. This cannot change. Oh, yes, it can. Survival. You are born with the fears that accompany survival. Intuitively. Born, fear of the dark. Fear, by the way, that you might be eaten. Now you'll say, wait a minute, we're not going to be eaten. Really? Because that fear goes from the old days of being afraid of being eaten by the Bengal tiger to being eaten by your peers or your situation or those around you or your competition. Do you see where I'm going? It's the fear of being eaten by that which you cannot control. There's more. The fear that you will not then survive because you are not perhaps good enough. These are basic survival instincts, you might say, A psychologist will say, that's correct. You come in with them. Any mother knows this. How long does it take for you to understand that within the child that you have, that you're looking at and that you love so much, there are all the things you never taught them. There's jealousy and rage and competition and greed and all of those basic instincts, the immaturity, no elegance yet. It's all there, and you didn't ask anything to them or teach anything to them to get them in that modality. It just came with the package, didn't it? So you know I'm right. Now what I'm going to tell you this. Now we're going to talk about solutions. First of all, a statement. Even though these things are instinctual and you come in with them, they are programs. That's all they are. Call them engrams, if you wish. They are stamped upon your psyche, and they are not hardwired. There's a difference. There's not really much that's hardwired except how your body functions. Everything else, especially in the consciousness, is a program. You come in with a legacy of the energy of the planet that supersedes you. All that has happened with low and high consciousness and duality for eons is stamped upon you, and you come in afraid. That is a program. And like every program that you've heard on these shows, all the things, it can be rewritten. It is rewritable. Interesting. Why does it show itself the way it does? It's almost like what you see, dear ones, with oil and water. You might have a glass of water and a little oil on it, and the oil stays on top. Let's say you're looking at the glass of water, which is a metaphor here of your consciousness when you arrive on the planet, and there's the oil representing all the negative things that's on top. It's only a fraction of the fluid, of the majesty, the joy, the compassion that is underneath that oil that's just floating on top. You got to get through the oil. You got to scrape it off. You can rewrite it. But it floats on top, and that's the first thing that you experience, and you got to get through. I want to tell you a story. It's a story about a child. The child will remain nameless, a little girl. I want to tell you what she experienced and what she did, because this is a wise little girl. You might say that this little girl kind of knew how things worked and figured it out for herself. There was one night when she went to bed. And when she woke up in the middle of the night, for whatever reason, she looked over and she got chills, because in the chair that was in her room was a horrible creature. She could just make out almost every single shade of its face, of its body, and it was just looking at her, and it wasn't moving. It was just staring at her. She was so afraid. Afraid of the dark, afraid of what was in the dark, of course. All these instinctual things that she had. Her mom came into the room because she was whimpering, turned on the light, and she realized that the monster was a clump of used clothing that she had simply put in the chair. That her imagination and her fear had created all of the things that she was certain of that were going to leap out of the chair and eat her, or worse. And all of these things she realized were there. When her mother turned off the light, interestingly enough, the monster returned in her mind, and she realized that this was something that was going to happen over and over. It was impossible for her to rewrite this. It was instinctual. And what she did, I want you to listen carefully. She created an angel. Whether it was a clump of clothes or whether it's something she hung by the door that superseded anything that was dark. And when she went to sleep and when the light was off, she could look at that and say, "Dear angel," and she gave it a name. "Let nothing inappropriate be presented to me tonight in either my dreams or my room, because I'm protected." What a wise little girl. How about you? That was all a metaphor, and that was about a child. How about you right now? Can you create something that says, "I am magnificent, and there is nothing that has come in that is more powerful than my magnificence, nothing that has come in with my birth that I would call fear of darkness or any of the phobias. It's all rewritable. And I am rewriting it because my magnificence will shine through anything dark." Does that work? Oh, yes. Just like the little girl. It works so well because you are creating you. Rewriting the things that are inappropriate, that have come in, that do not reflect you at all, don't reflect your magnificence at all. That's just the beginning of what you can do. As I describe the other three fears, you're going to find a similarity of solution in every single one of them. But they are all in your control. That's the magnificent human that I know. And so it is.
And take a deep breath, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, as you assimilate the beautiful messages that we just heard. Give yourself time to adjust back into your body, back into this room. We really want you to be consciously aware of this next section of our program, because Lee and I are so super excited, beyond belief actually, that we have Dr. Norman Shealy joining us today.
I'm bouncing up and down.
I know you are.
When I first heard that we have scheduled him, I said, "Oh my!" We're looking at the beginning of everything that we're seeing today and that we teach.
Exactly.
Right.
So let's just make sure Norm is on the line with us. Norm, are you there?
I am here.
Yay!
Yay! All right, great. Why don't you say a little bit about Norm?
Yeah,
Okay.
If you haven't heard about Dr. Norm, let us introduce you. He is the president of Shealy Soren Wellness and Holos Energy Medicine Education. Now, he created the concept of holistic medicine way back in 1971.
And if you think about it, this means that he was actively working on it in the 60s.
Amazing, isn't
or
it?
even before, in order for that date then to be the introduction of it.
Correct. So that concept of holistic medicine was with the introduction of spinal cord stimulation and TENS. Now, TENS is an acronym, and it stands for transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. Now, Dr. Norm is also the editor of the Journal of Comprehensive Integrative Medicine.
Founding president of the American Holistic Medical Association in '78. When I say that again, that's the founding president.
I know.
He has 14 patents in energy medicine, perhaps more at this time since the bio was written. Has published 36 books and over 350 articles.
Amazing.
Dr. Shealy's innovation include electroacupuncture, spinal cord stimulation, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. That's the TENS that we
Yes.
just said before. Rejuva-matrix, and for rejuvenating telomeres. That's really interesting to me.
I know, I want that every day.
Yes.
Now, he's also responsible, get ready, this is a very comprehensive list, transcutaneous acupuncture, which rejuvenates telomeres, for chakra sweep gamma PEMF, which is for stress reduction and opioid addiction, sapphire enhanced scalar, which is remarkable biochemical reduction in stress. And then this one is, everyone should gasp with this. It's biogenics retraining of the nervous system. Let me repeat, retraining of the nervous system, based on his PhD in humanistic psychology.
His clinical work includes comprehensive holistic management of pain, depression, anxiety, and chronic disease. Latest book is, and I love this one, Conversations with G, A Physician's Encounter with Heaven. He is also the recipient of a number of Lifetime Achievement Awards, absolutely, of course, in the fields of medicine, holism, wellness, innovation and education, and advancement in science and humanitarian aspects.
Wow.
Now
I wish we could spend the next 5 hours with Norm instead of 30 minutes.
I know, but we are now, and what I want to do is Dr. Norm, is to just give you the platform and let you talk, but I'm especially interested, I think many are, in the telomeres, which of course you're specializing in.
Wonderful. Well, interestingly, I've always been interested in health. I grew up in a very conventional lower middle class family. My father was a butcher. We had no physicians in the family, but at age 4, I stated, I'm going to become a doctor. I don't know why. By age 16, I knew I wanted to be a neurosurgeon.
Wow.
And in medical school, in the first year, my favorite course was the anatomy of the brain. Now, everybody else in the class thought it was boring, and I thought it was absolutely fabulous. And I began working, actually, after my first year in medical school in the summers. I worked on the electrophysiology of the amygdaloid nucleus. In fact, my very first publication was on the amygdaloid nucleus in a cat. It's very interesting. It's very similar in people. That's the place where our anger comes out, among others. But that led me, while I was in my neurosurgical residency, to get interested in better than what we were doing. That is, in the spinal cord, we were actually cutting with a razor blade the first half of the spinal cord to control pain. So when I finished my neurosurgical residency, I said, we got to get rid of this barbarian thing. And I spent 3 years doing physiology. And that's when I came up with transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation and spinal cord stimulation. And interestingly, when I introduced that to neurosurgeon after the animal research, they jumped up on the stage and said, "You idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. It's all in animals." But when I'd done only 6 patients, every neurosurgeon in the room wanted to do the procedure.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I was getting 400 people a year sent to me for the dorsal column stimulator. But 94% of them had 5 to 7 unsuccessful operations. And they were on Percodan, a narcotic, and Valium, one of horrible tranquilizers. And so in 1971, I said, somebody's got to find out how to take care of these people without making them worse. And that's when I began really coming out of the box. In 1972, I learned about autogenic training. Autogenic training is a technique that was begun in 1912 by a German psychiatrist. And it was so powerful when I introduced it to my chronic pain patients that in 1974, I said, I got to find out more about how do you train the brain? How do you recycle yourself, if you will? So I spent 3 years and got my PhD in psychology, and that's where I came up with biogenics, which is, of course, means the origin of life. Most people by age 18 have already become, well, patterned in the way they behave, and they react to life in a certain way. But unfortunately, the vast majority of Americans have unhealthy habits. In fact, one of the early papers in the early 2000s was premature death. The average American dies between 78 and 79 years of age. That is because they are missing 1 to 5 of the essential habits. Now, the number one cause of premature death today is obesity. 72% or more of Americans are overweight, and 36% of Americans are fat. Now, truly being obese means you are 40 or more pounds over your ideal weight, a body mass index of 30 or above. At the same time, I was learning all of this stuff. I learned that the number one chemical change that begins to show aging, if you will, is a lower amount of DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone. The average person peaks in making DHEA at age 25. Now, athletes may peak in their teens, but by age 40 or 50, most people have lost a significant amount of DHEA, and by age 80, the average person has about 10% or less of what they had at age 25.
Wow.
So my first research in rejuvenation in the 90s had to do with rejuvenation of DHEA. And I discovered 4 ways that we could do that. And then in 1995, I was invited to the Ukraine to study their concept of using very high frequencies. And they were using this on acupuncture points. 52 to 78 billion cycles a second. Now, the average 10 unit was 1 to 100 cycles per second. So this was 52 to 78 billion cycles a second, but a billionth of a watt. And so I developed that technique, and I started applying it. And about that same time, I began to get these downloads of what I call rings. The ring of fire, the ring of air, the ring of water, the ring of earth, the ring of crystal. Each of these has a very specific biochemical response. Fire raises DHEA. Air raises oxytocin, the nurturing bonding hormone. Water normalizes aldosterone. And aldosterone, you can be either high or low. Either one is bad. The earth ring raises calcitonin, the most important hormone for controlling your bones. It keeps you from getting osteoporosis, but it's also stronger than morphine in relieving pain. And finally, the ring of crystal, which lowers free radicals a whopping 80%. That's phenomenal. Nothing else I know of in the world can lower your free radicals 80%. So when I got the last bit of that information downloaded to me in 2005, I said, well, if we could just keep our DHA up, our calcitonin up, and our free radicals down, that alone should rejuvenate the body. And that's when I started working with telomeres. Telomeres are the tips of your DNA. We are born with a certain number of them, thousands of bytes, so-called. And in an average healthy person, we lose 1% every year of life. So genetically, the average person is born with enough to live 100 years. But because of unhealthy habits, the average person dies 22 or 1 years too soon. At any rate, so our first project was to stimulate with these high frequencies, 52 to 78 billion cycles a second, the acupuncture points of the rings of fire, earth, and crystal. And lo and behold, it regenerates the telomeres 3.5% a year. So you're saving essentially 4.5 years of life every time you do that.
Wow.
And then I discovered, well, if you put it into a mat, and the mat is very simple. It has a copper screen in the center of just a 2-inch thick piece of polyfoam. And you hook it up to a Tesla coil, and that produces 52 to 78 billion cycles a second at a billionth of watt per centimeter square. 1 hour a day of lying on that, you can turn it on while you're sleeping, will regenerate your telomeres by an average of 3.5%. So either you do that on an hour, or you take an hour stimulating the point specifically. And we perfected that in almost 50 people. Then in 2011, one day I said, well, it takes so much time. Most people won't spend the time. I've had trouble getting people to spend 20 minutes a day to do biogenics or autogenic training. And I suddenly thought, maybe if we use specific essential oils. Now, I get these ideas. They come to me. I call them a download. And the first one, of course, I got was the fire. So I sat down that day and created suddenly the combination, which is about 8 different essential oils that we could put on acupuncture points. So you just touch the point, roll it like that, and move on to the next point. Takes 30 seconds once you learn the points. And lo and behold, it raised DHEA. Then I developed similar blends of essential oils for each of the rings. And they all work. And then we did the study with applying the 3 basic oils for fire, earth, and crystal, just those, and learned that it does rejuvenate the telomeres 3.5% a year, similar to electrical stimulation, but taking 1.5 minutes a day. The next year, I did all 5 oils, but it was no better. So, although oxytocin and aldosterone are important, they don't seem to be involved with the telomere rejuvenation. So I've been doing that all these years. Now, a little over a year and a half ago, a company called LifeWave asked me to evaluate the possibility that one of their acupuncture patches, these are not oils, but little 1-inch patches that are loaded with amino acids to stimulate acupuncture points. So we did a study of 15 people where we had them put the patches on specific acupuncture points, and lo and behold, in 6 months, their telomeres grew 8%. Wow. Whopping. But we finished that in the spring and started a study with 60 people. 45 of them got the real thing, and 15 got the placebo. And interestingly, nobody practically had an increase in telomeres in 6 months. In fact, the average person went down, whether it was active or placebo. And what this means to me is what I call the fake-ademic, pseudodemic, stupidemic about this maybe virus that is existing, but the reaction to it has caused absolute terror across the world, presumably, but certainly in this country. And it looks as if fear and anxiety are causing more problems than we can overcome with anything so far discovered. Now, in January, interesting, I'm going to try one more experiment. This time we're going to try the patches, and we're going to also include crystal bliss, which reduces free radicals. We can assume that these people have had an increase in inflammation and free radical production. So we're going to measure their free radicals as well as their telomeres and see if we can overcome the stupidemic. I don't know, that's going to take us at least another 6 or 7 months, but the important thing is 97.3% of people are lacking 1 to 5 of the essential health habits. Only 2.7%, all 5 of them. Now, the 5 are no smoking. That used to be the number 1 cause of death, by the way. It's only number 2 now. A body mass index of 18 to 24. Again, only about 27 or 8% of people have a normal body mass index. Number 3, eating 5 or more, preferably 8 or 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The average American eats 2.2, and ketchup and French fries are not a vegetable.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just ruined his diet.
I'm sorry. Not really.
We're joking.
We're joking.
And of course, exercise. A minimum of 30 minutes 5 days a week. Only 10% of Americans get that. And sleeping 7 or 8 hours every night.
I like that.
Again, at least 45 or 50% of people get less than 7 hours of sleep every night. A person who sleeps 6 hours or less functions at the level of slightly drunk. There are more automobile accidents caused by people who don't sleep adequately than there are by drugs and alcohol. So if everybody just took up the 5 habits, our average life expectancy would go up from 78 or 9 to 100, and our health costs would go down about 70%. Our medical costs to keep us healthy. And now we know that they could still use the Rejuvenatrix, the mattress on which you lie, or they could still apply these frequencies to the acupuncture points. I'm going to continue working to find other ways of rejuvenating telomeres. But the top of the list is take care of yourself. You know, we have one responsibility in life, to take care of ourselves, and second, to help other people. Now, I want to point out, from my point of view, the person who made this is quite as important as I am. I would be bored out of my gourd trying to figure out how to do that. But teaching people, counseling people, educating people, guiding people to be healthy has been a lifelong joy for me. And I want to just say, you can, I think, prevent the vast majority of ages. Now, personally, I not only have the 5 habits, but I exercise, well, just 2 hours, 7 days a week.
Ooh.
I'm a hyperactive child grown up, and I enjoy moving. But if you don't like to exercise, I'm going to show you my favorite exercise. Just move your arms. You stand, probably could do it standing, but you'll get a little more out of it if you stand and slightly bend your knees. Music conductors live longer than any other profession.
What? I did not know that. Lee, you
write
would
that
love
down.
that.
Music
Wow.
conductors live longer.
Yeah, and I call it bounce. You can go to YouTube, Bounce with Dr. Shealy. But 30 minutes of my, actually some days 40 minutes of my morning exercise is bouncing, but I'm doing it on a vibratory machine where the whole body is being bounced 20 to 50 cycles a minute, as well as moving my arms. To me, that energizes me. I'll wake up full of energy, but by finishing my 2 hours of exercise, I'm more energized and ready for the day. Now, the other thing is my diet. I eat a very, very restricted diet. I eat the equivalent of 20 servings of fruits and vegetables in a slush. You don't have to get it out of 5 pounds of vegetables that you blenderize. You can do it with a powdered concentration of these antioxidants, ORACs, O-R-A-C-S, that's the antioxidant capacity. So I get the equivalent of 20 servings of fruits and vegetables. And my breakfast generally consists of about 58 to 60 grams of protein, primarily as whey protein and hemp protein. Then, later in the day, I'll have another 50 grams roughly of protein as another scoop of whey plus 2 tablespoons of beef gelatin. And then I have at least 1 serving a day of some kind of high protein meat product. It can be anything from beef to chicken or fish. I particularly like salmon and sardines. But I get about 120 grams of protein a day, and I get the equivalent of 20 servings of fruits and vegetables. I obviously eat some regular vegetables and fruits as well, and I love apple juice, and I drink a cup of coffee once or twice a day. And I drink half of my body weight in pounds in ounces of water. That, to me, is a healthy lifestyle.
How often do you drink the water? Every day?
Frequently. I start the day, actually, before I do my exercise, I have a full glass of water. Now, I live on a farm, so I get well water, which we have tested to be sure is good.
Yeah.
And so I have a glass of water, and then in my morning slush, I have another 2 glasses of water. Then
can we share-
mid-morning, I'm likely to have a cup of coffee and another glass of water.
Can we share with the audience something you haven't said yet? What is your chronological age at the moment?
88 years of age as of 2 weeks ago today.
All right.
Well, I would love to know where we can get those essential oils. You told us 30 seconds, placed in various locations, and it lengthens the telomeres, correct?
Yes. If you go to Norm Shealy, NORMSHEALY.com, it will take you to our website. And there you will find what I call the bliss oils.
Mm-hmm.
And I love everything you're saying. It's not just about living longer, it's about quality of life. Your whole focus has been pain-free.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't told you my favorite creation yet.
Oh, do it.
Well, we definitely want to know.
We have 6 minutes. Do it.
About 30 years ago, I had a sudden image of chakras. Chakras are the energy centers of the body. And I thought, well, they must refer to the earth energy, but the further we are, the greater they are. And so I wrote down that the first chakra would be 7.83, and each additional one would add 7.83. And my guide says, well, Norman, that is true, but we're not clones. Mm-hmm. So it's plus or minus 2. Mm-hmm. So then it's 5.83 to 7 times 7.83 plus 2, which essentially goes from 5.83 to 56.81. Now, I couldn't find an engineer. I can create what I want on paper, but I can't put the wires together. And 4 years ago, I met an engineer who was willing to do that for me, and he created what we called first the chakra sweep, PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequency device. Now, PEMF has been around for 25 years or more, and it's used for many, many, many things. In a healthy person, every cell in our body at rest has a minus 70 millivolt charge on it. It just sits there. Okay, I'm ready. Fire, it has to go down to minus 60 maybe. Yep, okay, take care. If it goes down to minus 50 or 60, it's hyperactive. If it goes down to minus 90, it's underactive. So we started using the chakra sweep, and my first study on it was to see what it did to free radicals, essentially. I had people sit in a room with it 9 hours a week for 4 weeks, just a little over an hour a week average. And we measured not their telomeres at that time, but their adrenomedullin. Actually, adrenomedullin is the #1 biochemical reaction to stress. In a healthy person, it is between 1 and 10. My average patient had over 150 units of adrenomedullin. So doing that just for a month, their adrenomedullin came down well over 50%. So we brought them back, and we had them just sit there for 3 hours this time. And that time, we looked at a drop of blood at the beginning under the microscope, as well as did the free radicals. And in that 1 hour exposure, the inflammatory markers in the blood came down 80%, and the free radicals came down 40% just from that 1 hour exposure. Wow, not bad. Then one day I thought, well, I wonder what this does to the brain, EEG. I bet it produces gamma. And we put it's a coil, 8 inches in diameter, just put it near the head, not touching the head. And lo and behold, it put the brain into the frequency called gamma. The excellent part of gamma is 40 cycles per second. Now, that was first discovered over 25 years ago in Buddhist monks who meditate 8 hours a day for years. And we could put people into the gamma state on the EEG within 2 minutes by putting that near the head. So then I tried it on 10 long-standing opioid narcotic addicts. 20 plus years, they've never been free of cravings and addiction. As of this month, we are finishing 3 years, and they are totally free of addiction. They've been freed out of prison. They have their children back. They have jobs back. And not one of them, in fact, one man had to have a major surgical procedure, and they put him on narcotics. He was off them within 3 weeks. He did not become addicted again.
Wonderful.
The interesting thing is, despite our success, the opioid treatment centers are not interested because they treat people for 1 to 3 months, and their success rate is a whopping 17%. Ours within a month begins to be 100%. But we now call it the Shealy Soren Gamma, GAMMA, PEMF. And just 2 days ago, we finally got our patent approved on it.
Wow.
Wow, great.
Congratulations for
Yay.
that. Dr. Norm, I have to tell you, we are almost out of time, and I know you have so much more to. I hesitate even to ask you this because I know your schedule is, and that is, would you be willing to come back this year for another broadcast with us?
Of course I would.
And
I love to talk, especially to good people.
because I know we're just scratching the surface, and I also know that you'll have more research at that time on these things. This is absolutely fascinating. It's cutting edge. Can I just say I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you're in our lives. And
Well, I would say mutual. Thank you very much, and let's all go for a normalized 2021.
that's the best thing that you could have said. Do you have anything else to say to us, Doctor?
I would say the most important thing is to think health
Mm-hmm.
and detach from those things you cannot change. I can't change the weather. I can't change government, but I can change my attitude and behavior.
Great.
Beautiful.
What a wonderful way to close this. We're going to talk to Dr.
Absolutely.
Shealy again sometime. And folks, I know we've run out of time for this, and I know many of you are going, keep going, keep going.
Yes.
We will have this again. This is just absolutely fascinating. So it's time for a break, I believe.
Yes, 10-minute break, and we'll see you very soon.
Well, welcome back from the break.
Lee, I found that what Norm shared with us so fascinating because we heard in the channel fear stops healing, and he shared with us an experiment that demonstrated that exact thing.
There was even more, and I was buzzing at it because I think it was in March or April, very, very early in 2020, that Kryon made a statement, and he said that potentially more were going to die from the fear of COVID than from the disease itself, based upon what fear does, and that is, to make people anxious and fearful.
Yeah.
Very profound stuff.
Yes.
Looking forward to having Dr. Norm back, and we're working on it right now.
Exactly.
Because he's got so much more. He told us after the broadcast was over privately that he had something else he wanted to share, and that's extremely metaphysical, not even in medical, but that has to do a lot with the healing of the heart. So
Absolutely.
we're going to go there when we get there.
So let's now proceed to the Circle of 12. And as we prepare to enter the Circle of 12, let us begin by honouring our journey that has brought us to this exact moment. Take a moment to silently give honour and thanks to your ancestors and to all of those who you have loved and lost. I invite you to feel them here with you now, celebrating your magnificence. Your soul is eternal, and it exists everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It is pure, multi-dimensional energy, sacred energy beyond anything you can ever measure. And the love part of your soul is what you feel and sense. You have the ability to integrate your soul. And as we continue towards the Circle of 12, let us affirm our willingness to connect with the God inside. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I give permission to experience the grandness of my soul. I am ready.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon. Come a little closer. Come a little closer. And we're going to tell you something that's very profound and real and true. Most of those of you listening right now are listening on purpose. That is to say, that even though this particular program is the one that perhaps most would watch as the first program of the month, you're here on purpose. Only a few of you are here as what we call to look around. Most are here on purpose because this is the time for healing. Something happens in this Circle of 12 meditation that I told you would. In the months that we have been doing this, I see those who have been affected, changed, healed, because of what they find out, because of the consciousness that starts to marry with the modalities that are presented. Many times consciousness alone. When people start to realize that when you go across the bridge, you enter that which is magnificently you. A place that you were never told was even there. So the profound thing I want to tell you is this. What if the Creator could bend down and whisper in your ear right now? What if that was so? What if you had a communication that was so powerful? Or through prayer, or from any modality that you could simply say, okay, for a moment, just for a moment, the Creator is going to come down and with a very soft and beautiful voice, either masculine or feminine, whatever suits you best, would whisper something in your ear. What would that be? And I'll tell you what it is. The Creator would say to you, come closer. But that is the request from the other side of the veil to every human on the planet. Coming closer is a metaphor, of course. It means to have an awareness of just who you are that allows a closer relationship to that which you were never told you could even have. The Circle of 12 meditation is the creation of an energy of an allowance. It's an allowance that you would have and create that goes beyond that which you're used to, or anything really that you might have been told you could do. We've mentioned it before. Even those healers, those who have been in what you would call spiritual work, metaphysical work, or anything that would land in these areas I'm talking about, spiritualists, meditators, most of them would say to you, I know what is available. I've been out of my body. I've been this, I've been that. I know what you can do, but this surpasses it. It does. And there would be those who would object. And when they say, well, who are you, Kryon, to change the rules? I want you to get this straight and get this clear so that you can repeat this answer to anyone who says those things. I changed nothing. You changed it all when you passed the marker of 2012. When you started opening a door that you can't close, called the future, called more compassionate action than ever before. You did it. You changed the rules. Does it make sense that you would only go to a certain level and then hang there for eternity when it comes to consciousness or meditation or a relationship to the Creator as a human being? You think it only goes to a certain point and that's it and you got it covered? Doesn't work that way. There's always growth, and you know that. But with the change at 2012, we have given you information that the planet itself is helping you. The creative source is helping you. This is a new time. It's a new normal. And it opens the door of allowance for you to see it differently. Wow. So I say to all of those who have studied all their life the very things I'm speaking of, relax for a moment. And I want you to feel, is there something more available or not? Go past that which you were told. It does not at all interfere with your teaching to think there might be more. Because, dear ones, you'll be teaching it. I'm teaching it at the moment. But let a decade pass, and it'll be the norm. And that is, people will start to understand that they go into a certain state of being, of mind, if you wish, of consciousness, that crosses that bridge we're going to cross instantly, puts them into a multidimensional state where they start to work with their soul energy. And they start to meet the things that we have been talking about, and we will talk about even today, doing those kinds of things. It's endless. the things that you can do when you cross the bridge. Crossing the bridge, again, a metaphor. From that which you don't know to that which you will know. So many times we've used an expression, moving into color, if you're black and white. It opens the door to that which you didn't expect. And the reason, again, is so basic. You don't expect to discover you're magnificent. You don't expect that. Because of the training that most of you have had that says you're not. And that is what we are overcoming, dear ones. One human at a time who starts to look around and go, oh my, oh my, you mean this was always there? And the answer is, oh yes. You're going to have to climb out of that box of belief that says you cannot do what you're about to do. We imagine a chasm, a canyon. Some have even put water in it to make it a moat. But indeed, dear ones, it is a metaphor of separation. This kind of metaphor has been with you forever. It's in most of the scriptures. Look for it. A definition of a separation between your reality and the reality that might be there on the other side of the veil. In so many novels and in literature, and legends, poems, there are the sailors who have to cross a large sea and go to a place, perhaps another continent or an island, to find the magic that they're looking for. In the stories that are there, that is the same metaphor. In that case, it's an ocean. But they have to get into a ship, suspend belief, and go find the things that they're looking for. Sometimes it's treasure. But they don't find it on the shore where they are, do they now? These are metaphors that you have had forever. And here it is again. The chasm is there, and a bridge is installed for you. A bridge perhaps even with your name on it. A bridge that is of your own design and making, that will hold either you or many. It's just for you. It's in your mind. And we ask you to cross it into the unknown. It's the beginning of the year. Some are here for the first time in a program like this. Some have been here over and over and over. They know what's coming. The cross from the known to the unknown is what you're about to do. And as you cross the bridge, you get to the middle, and you find you cannot see past a swirling mist. The mist is a metaphor. It blocks that which you are supposed to learn instead of showing you in advance what you're going to see. This is more than a metaphor. It's human nature. As you were going to school, and perhaps you were in some of the first grades of a middle school, and you accidentally saw some of the textbooks of the seniors and the ones who were perhaps going to graduate soon, and you looked at the books and you said, oh my, I will never, ever learn that. They were too complicated. And you might have said to yourself, I'll never make it. It's too much. I won't go there. You've implanted things in your mind that says, it's too hard. That's why you don't get to see it. It isn't too hard, but it might appear that way. Come with me on the bridge right now, together. Let's go. Let's go to that place where in the middle there is this swirling mist. Some have actually put a gate there in their minds without me ever telling you that there is a gate there. It's a swirling mist. That's all there is. The gate has to be opened. There is a metaphor there. Who has the key? Is it you? Indeed it is. But just the fact that there is a gate is even more separation. Let's go there now. With all pure intent, I ask you to take off your shoes. I also ask those who are listening to this, who know what's coming, collectively would help those right now who perhaps go to sleep. Because that is what you do. Because it is a survival method that is metaphysical, dear ones, that says, I don't want to go to this place because at some level I'm not ready. Oh, yes, you are. You wouldn't be listening. So all together, with the help of those listening and all, let's cross the bridge. Come with me now. Through the mist you go, and the clearing happens, and that new land that you see, where the sun shines just a little brighter, where the weather is so calm and beautiful, it's not even seen as weather. There's a stillness there. And some of you will relate to the stillness, and you will find there are animals there, or birds in the trees, or whatever you need that says things are fine. It's an anodyne for the soul. It is a peaceful salve that you wallow in, because there's everything safe here and there's no danger. Looking at you and your soul is not a dangerous thing, because all you see is the magnificence that you are. Come with me, come with me. Let's go through that portal door. We're not even going to talk much about it, because I want to get you into the room and talk more about what's going to happen today. If you're with me for the first time, the room you go into is not just a room. It could be a stadium, but it's a theater of any size you wish, which is a theater in the round. The stage is sunken, so it's like an amphitheater in the round. There are seats all around this stage, and you go down the stairway to this sunken stage, and there's one chair in the middle of the stage, and you know it's for you. And you're going to walk down there. In this particular case, the audience is ready for you. They're ready for you. They're not going to arrive later. There's a hubbub. They're ready for you, and you arrive, and there's a hush. There's a hush, because they know what's going to happen. And now I'm going to tell you. Climb the stairs to that stage and take your place, dear ones, in the chair. It's a chair of honor with your name on it. Everyone has expected you to be there. This particular healing session is for those of you with a disease. That's the specialty today. Now I'm going to tell you who's in the chairs. There are thousands watching this program. Dear ones, did you know that? Right now, as we live stream, as my partner says, a funny name, there are thousands. And each one of you is in two places. Each of you is in the chair, but you're also in the audience. For the audience is the listenership right now, at this moment. Even if it is a replay, it's alive with the now and the presence. It's happening now, because multidimensional things do not have a timestamp, dear ones. You know that. And every single one who is watching now and listening now is going to help you with that disease. There is so much power in numbers. They're not going to reach out their hands and cure you, dear ones. What they're going to do is to make sure you understand that you're allowed to change the disease in you. And they're going to help you with the energy of prayer, compassion, joy, whatever you want. All of you are involved in helping all of you at this moment. What a concept. Do you feel the connection? This is the healing of 12. The 12 being the number, truly, of the way things work in the universe. That's the physics of now, and you're connected to all of it. The connection is so profound that each one of you in a multidimensional state is in the other person. Whatever that disease is that you are looking at or that you want chased away, you have a right to tell it to go away. And all of those around you are giving you the high five and they're saying, you're right, listen. Because at this multidimensional level, they understand that it's doable. And that not only is it doable, you have a right, and it's been waiting for you to eliminate it. Do you know that? You have an appointment in the chair right now. Invitation from the other side of the veil to you at this moment. Cure yourself, dear human being. It is your rite of passage into this beautiful, beautiful, compassionate place where you are going. Let this be the demarcation point. And if you don't feel certain it's happening, then listen to this again and put yourself in the chair as many times as you need to be pure intent to know this is real for you. For now, you all are participating in all of your healing, all of it. What a concept. I want you to stay there. Stay there. And think about what has just happened, dear ones. Is it real or not? Your psyche and your consciousness can play games with that, but I will tell you, it's as real as anything you have ever touched. Touch the face of the Creator, perhaps, and hear the words, "Come closer." And so it is.